Tonight, plugging in, Canadians look to navigate the new Chinese EV deal. Will Carney's landmark agreement change car buying in Canada?
I know people are scared.
It's good, great for everybody. I will buy Canadian products, not a Chinese product.
And what's driving Trump's next tariff target? A new phase of the federal firearm buyback program.
The compensation program is voluntary, but compliance with the law is not.
The deadline for compensation, who won't enforce it, and why critics say it falls short. Plus, the Canadian astronaut with his sights set on the moon.
I've been staring at it a lot more, and I think others are going to join us in staring at the moon a lot more as there are humans flying around the far side.
What Jeremy Hansen is sharing as he prepares for liftoff.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. A major escalation from U.S. President Donald Trump as he ramps up his desire to take control of Greenland, threatening new tariffs on allies who oppose his plan. Protests boiled over today on the massive Arctic island and elsewhere. Hundreds of people in Greenland marched through the nation's capital, waving flags and carrying banners as they headed for the U.S. consulate.
Greenland, not for sale!
An estimated 20,000 demonstrators took to the streets of Copenhagen in support of the autonomous territory, holding signs saying no means no and hands off Greenland, while other protests were held across Denmark. Closer to home, about 70 demonstrators in Nunavut's capital marched through freezing conditions in support of Greenland. The rally's organizer says the Indigenous peoples of Nunavut and Greenland share the same concerns. She says when Trump threatens Inuit homelands, we feel the threat in Nunavut. The protests followed Trump's threat to impose new tariffs on 8 European allies until the U.S. is allowed to buy Greenland. In a post on Truth Social, Trump threatened to slap a 10% tariff on goods from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Finland, and Great Britain, starting February 1st. Those tariffs would increase to 25% on June 1st and continue until a deal is reached. The head of the European Commission was quick to respond, saying the European Union remains in full solidarity with Denmark and Greenland and warns tariffs would undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. And a former Minister of Foreign Affairs is warning that Canada could be the next target of Trump's tariffs.
There's no question that the possibility exists. And while the president very often uses rhetoric and inflammatory language to leverage certain decisions that he is out to achieve, or certain goals, there's no question that sometimes that bluff turns into reality.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has said the future of Greenland, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, will be decided solely by the people of Denmark. Canadian officials plan to be in Greenland in the coming weeks to officially open a new consulate. Mark Carney's announcement of a new deal with China on electric vehicles has received a lot of reaction from Canadian automakers, worried manufacturers here will take a back seat while consumers benefit. CTV's Kamal Kramali explains.
Cars, trucks, SUVs snapped up at this used vehicle lot in Toronto. The only thing you won't ever convince these customers to buy, would you buy a Chinese electric vehicle?
Oh, no.
Is an electric vehicle made in China.
It's going to be difficult to understand the technology, especially we are in the cold country.
That doubt won't last long, says this dealership owner, once Chinese EVs hit the Canadian market.
I think having more options will bring the price down in the general market.
Nazar Navalsky has traveled to car shows around the world and believes Chinese-made EVs are ready for takeoff.
So I got to touch and see. I was absolutely blown away.
Friday, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a trade deal with China that would lower tariffs on Chinese-made EVs for up to 49,000 vehicles annually shipped to Canada. Within 5 years, more than half of those vehicles could have an import price of under $35,000.
Having more choice in the market is obviously more beneficial. It leads to better competition. Those prices will come down, and that makes vehicles more affordable for everyone in Canada.
A senior government source has now told CTV News that EVs Canada imports from China this year are not likely to be from Chinese companies, but instead made by North American or Asian companies in China. But eventually, down the road, the source says Chinese companies could partner with automakers in Canada using Canadian workers.
I think it's highly unlikely to happen. They're building those vehicles in China with low or non-existent labor standards and extremely weak environmental standards. That business model doesn't work in Canada.
But if it ever does, this car salesman has this message. So what do you say to those consumers who are not quite ready to trust a Chinese-made EV just yet?
I think that the population needs to be educated on the benefits of EV. There's a lot of wrong misunderstandings.
And according to a senior government source, Ottawa has plans to release Canada's new auto strategy in February, which will include more details on China's role in Canada's auto sector. Heather.
Kamal Karmali in Toronto. Manitoba farmers are weighing in on the deal that could ease pressure on canola producers. CTV's Alex Karpa on their cautious optimism.
So out here is potential canola ground for next year.
Curtis McRae farms between 1,500 to 1,800 acres of canola per year, but this past farming season wasn't easy on him.
It was not a great canola year. We did not get quite enough precipitation to make the canola crop work out well.
Adding to an already stressful season, there were punishing tariffs placed by China on Canadian canola.
Welcome.
But a new deal between Ottawa and Beijing is giving canola growers like McRae a glimmer of hope.
Well, it's definitely not a step backwards in saying that, canola farmers lost $1 billion essentially last year because of these trade agreements. So how do we regain $1 billion in 1 year? It's going to take a couple of years. We need more price improvement yet.
Thorsten Stanze is in a similar situation. He farms around 2,000 metric tons of canola each year and hopes this deal stays put.
China is a little bit different to deal with than maybe some other countries, but I mean, there's so much uncertainty right now in the world overall. So I think that it's a good thing that Canada's trying to diversify their markets.
Warren Ellis says this new agreement gives growers time to adjust their spring seeding plans before they hit the fields.
That's going to help our cash flow. It's going to make it such a huge difference as far as what we plant, because before this we were looking at possibly hanging on to a lot of canola throughout the course of the summer. And so, the last thing we wanted to do was to grow more canola.
Ottawa also expects to have tariffs on canola meal, lobsters, crabs, and peas reduced or removed starting on March 1st up until the end of the year, but no mention about canola oil, which is still subject to a 100% tariff. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
European leaders are hailing a historic trade agreement between the EU and a bloc of South American countries as a breakthrough at a time of heightened trade tensions around the world.
And this agreement sends a very strong message to the world. It reflects a clear and deliberate choice. We choose fair trade over tariffs.
The deal with the Mercosur bloc creates one of the world's largest free trade zones with more than 700 million consumers. The bloc consists of Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Bolivia can join the agreement in the coming years. Venezuela has been suspended from the bloc and isn't included in the deal. Canada's Prime Minister is focused on securing even more trade deals, now visiting the Persian Gulf country of Qatar. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver is traveling with the PM. Annie, what can we expect?
Heather, after securing what the Prime Minister hailed as a landmark trade agreement in Beijing, Mark Carney is now in Doha looking to drum up business for Canada. Senior officials say they are looking to grow the diplomatic relationship on this trip and improve trade access in areas including clean tech, artificial intelligence, and security. Officials also hope to eventually see Qataris invest in some of Canada's so-called major projects. Canada's finance minister met with his counterpart on Saturday and said the Qataris are very interested in deploying capital to Canada. Ottawa also sees Qatar as an increasingly important player and ally on the world stage, given its role as a mediator in major conflicts. The country has helped in negotiations between Hamas and Israel and has helped with the reunification of Ukrainian children. But there are also questions about human rights. In the past, Human Rights Watch has raised concerns citing slave labor and freedom of expression. While in Doha, Carney will meet with business leaders and hold private meetings with the Emir, Qatar's head of state, and with the Qatar Investment Authority, the state's sovereign wealth fund. Here's Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne.
There's an appetite for Canada in the world. A lot of people value more and more the stability, predictability that Canada offers.
This is the first ever visit to Qatar by a sitting Canadian Prime Minister. Carney will be in Doha for 2 days before departing for the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Heather.
CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver. The federal government is moving forward with next steps of its firearm buyback program. Here's CTV's Jeremy Sharon on the deadline for compensation and the range of reaction.
The federal government pressing on today with the next step of its controversial gun buyback program, giving gun owners across the country a deadline to turn in or disable their firearms, which are set to become illegal.
Critics have complained that buying back assault-style firearms will do nothing to reduce crime. We disagree.
Gun owners will have 2 months to take them up on their offer. A declaration period will start Monday and run until March 31st, but doesn't guarantee you compensation. It's first come, first serve. The government has earmarked $248 million for this phase of the program, enough for approximately 136,000 firearms. How much you get depends on the model, from hundreds to thousands of dollars.
The compensation program is voluntary, but compliance with the law is not.
An amnesty period is set to end in October, after which possessing any of the more than 2,500 guns banned by Ottawa since 2020 would be a criminal offense. A joint statement today from a number of gun control groups called the move a win for public safety in Canada, while Canada's gun lobby group is calling it a wasteful, ineffective, and divisive program.
Recon, pump action, spring-loaded.
Lawful gun owners across the country say it falls short.
If you had an expensive vehicle and the government banned it and wanted to give you a tenth of its value, is that a buyback or a theft?
Some provinces have come out against it too. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba have all said they won't help administer or enforce the federal plan.
This is a federal government program that doesn't appear to be very efficient, doesn't appear to be well run.
Gun owners who don't opt into the program can either permanently deactivate their firearms at their own cost, turn them into police without being compensated, or export them if they have a permit. If not, after October 30th, they'll be breaking the law. Heather?
All right, Jeremy, thank you. Iran's supreme leader is blaming the U.S. for inciting anti-regime protests, and for the first time, Ayatollah Khamenei admitted that thousands of people have been killed. Over the past few weeks, Iranian authorities have cut all internet and phone access and escalated a bloody crackdown. Back here at home, widespread rallies continue in support of Iranian protesters. North of Toronto, several streets were sealed off as hundreds marched in solidarity, calling for international action and an end to the brutal crackdown. A massive presence also by Montreal's Iranian community. Here's CTV's Sweeta Rassi.
Look at him, he's 17 years old, Sam Afshari.
Atena Barfarushi is scrolling through photos on her phone. Images of people she says were recently killed while protesting in Iran.
News we hear from Iran is extremely disturbing. The number of people who got killed by the regime and the people who are injured, they are not safe.
She's one of hundreds who gathered near Cabot Square Saturday afternoon. Montreal's Iranian community held a demonstration in response to a deadly crackdown in Iran. Barfarushi says she hasn't been able to reach family back home because of internet blackouts imposed by the government.
We don't have internet. We haven't heard from our family over a week.
Protesters made their way to the U.S. consulates. Organizers say their goal is to put pressure on the international community, particularly the United States, to take stronger action.
We need the support because we are just the people. You see, we are not armed. We're not from military. We are just people. We are the same people. We have just our voice like people in Iran.
Many protesters also voiced support for Iran's exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi as a potential transitional leader. Since protests erupted in Iran on December 28th, the U.S.-based human rights activist news agency estimates around 3,000 people have been killed, though the Iranian community here says that number is even higher. For those who gathered, the message is clear.
And we want freedom for them. What's the meaning of freedom? Food, electricity, internet, freedom at home, the basic of human rights that they don't have at the moment.
Even from thousands of kilometers away, they say they will continue to speak out for those whose voices are silenced. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
Coming up after the break.
That cost is passed down on to us. I don't think we should be responsible.
The climate policy that might have Canadians paying more at the pumps. As the cost of living continues to squeeze households, drivers are feeling an added pain at the pump, even with the consumer carbon tax gone. Here's CTV's Kathy Lee on the climate policy some believe is still adding to the cost.
When Canadians fill up, this place becomes a stage for quiet calculations, as many struggle with affordability.
The cost has gone really up for most of the things.
Even after Ottawa scrapped the consumer carbon tax, lowering gas prices, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation says drivers are still paying more, pointing to a federal climate policy introduced in 2023.
The numbers are from the Parliamentary Budget Officer, and the hidden carbon tax will add up to 7 cents per litre of gas this year. As these regulations get fully implemented by 2030, they're going to increase the price of gas by up to 17 cents per litre.
The policy known as the Clean Fuel Regulations is designed to make gas and diesel cleaner over time by requiring fuel producers to cut pollution or buy credits if they don't.
When there is a cost increase from point A to its final destination, that increase will end up usually getting passed along to the point where the consumer is going to pay for that.
CTV News reached out to the federal government but did not receive a response by deadline. But climate advocates defend the regulations, saying the cost estimates being cited don't reflect what's happening now.
Now we have the clean fuel regulations in effect. We see the credit prices, trading hands. We see companies adjusting. We see the output of clean fuels in Canada really ramping up.
For consumers, reaction remained mixed.
That cost is passed down on to us. I don't think we should be responsible.
If you go to the producer, of course they'll say that we are being charged, so we have to recover that price, right? If you come to me, I'll say why I should pay the price. So like I said, so one has to look at it holistically.
As for gas prices, GasBuddy says the Canadian national average is $1.28 per litre and is expected to slowly inch down the rest of the month, unless a geopolitical event triggers a price increase across the country. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Still ahead, the mission to the moon. NASA prepares for liftoff as the Artemis 2 rocket enters a new stage. Tourism is a major economic driver on Prince Edward Island, pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into the province. Peak season is still months away, but as CTV's Maria Saru shows us, operators are already strategizing to make the most of the spring and summer rush.
For PEI's tourism industry, this is the planning season. Notepads open, operators are taking stock of what worked in the peak months and what didn't. After a record-breaking 2024, they say 2025 brought even more traffic and the momentum is still building.
I think when people get a taste of what we have to offer here, they're bound to return, tell their friends, tell their family.
Corinne Clements with the Tourism Industry Association of PEI says Canadian visitation is playing a big part, along with U.S. and international tourists. But as the sector grows, a key staffing pipeline is shrinking. Holland College suspended several tourism-related programs last year following changes to federal immigration targets, including who qualifies for post-grad work permits.
We know we're losing a great pool of talented individuals and trained individuals for our industry.
She adds businesses are bracing for the impact and brainstorming solutions. Owners also flagged day-to-day issues. Devin Sela runs Beach Goats, a rural experience where visitors can paddleboard with the animals or hit the trails. But cell service can be a problem.
To be able to make emergency calls or even have transactions go through on people's phones.
It matters even more as the industry pushes to extend its tourism season to start earlier and end later. This is the first of 4 sessions the Tourism Industry Association of PEI is hosting across the island in hopes 2026 will be the best year yet for businesses and visitors. Maria Saru, CTV News, Summerside.
NASA's plan to return humans to the moon entered a new phase today when the Artemis 2's rocket and spacecraft rolled out to the launch pad. NASA slowly rolled out its 11 million pound moon rocket to the launch pad at the Kennedy Space Center. The Artemis mission could lift off as early as next month, sending a 4-person crew deeper into space than ever before. Among the 4 astronauts is Jeremy Hansen from London, Ontario.
I think the moon is something I've sort of taken for granted. I've, looked at it my whole life, but then, you just kind of glance at it, glance away. But now I've been staring at it a lot more. And I think others are going to join us in staring at the moon a lot more as there are humans flying around the far side.
The first human mission to the moon in more than half a century. There's no launch date for the 10-day trip, but NASA says it will come between early February and the end of April. Still ahead, we're heading to Banff, Alberta. What's behind this thrilling mashup of horses, freestyle skiing, and outrageous fashion? We leave you tonight with a festival you have to see to believe. The event is action-packed and the theme, Western Après. Think fur and fringe with skiers and plenty of horsepower. CTV's Tyler Barrow gives us a glimpse of the ski-joring weekend, bringing thousands to Banff.
Blips, fashion, and fun. Ski-joring was back in Banff this weekend. Over 8,000 people are expected to attend each day, meaning spots to view the dynamic winter sport were at a premium. People coming from across the country for the party.
This is pretty cool. There's no reason to wear this getup unless you're here. This is awesome.
This soon-to-be bride chose the event for her bachelorette party.
Everybody on the vibes, cowboy boots, cowboys, horses, cowgirls. That's it. It's perfect.
This is the 4th consecutive year Banff has hosted ski-joring, or the greatest show on snow in the heart of its downtown. And it's the highlight of the Snow Days Festival.
We put on events in winter to give people a reason to come out to the mountains at this time of year.
The boost in foot traffic appreciated by local businesses.
Helps bring the people in and keep us busy when, not everyone's here.
Banff and Lake Louise Tourism says hotels are booked solid.
Ski-Jour Canada is set to come to Calgary February 21st and 22nd, where riders will look to get some big air at the Confluence Historic Site in Parkland. Demand for tickets is already high. Tyler Barrow, CTV News, Banff.
That looks like a fun festival. That is our newscast for this Saturday night. I'm Heather Butts for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.